As promised, this is another video on how to sew the ribbons and elastics in your pointe shoes. After watching my last video, I realized that I was really rushed and I missed a few key things that I wanted to come across for everyone. And I know everybody's at a different place in their knowledge on even how to thread a needle. So I want to do some of the very basics today as well, and I am going to show you the finished product of the crisscross pattern of the elastics across the top of the foot. And I am sewing for another one of our friends. Happy birthday, by the way. Her daughter's pointe shoes. She wants it to just go around the ankle, so I'm going to show you that today as well. But first, let me turn this camera around and show you just one thing that a lot of people don't know whenever they're starting out. I did not know as well when I first started all those years ago. So let's look at this. So the shoe on the left is my friend's daughter's. As you can see, the box is completely different than my daughter's that's on the right. The one on the left is called a short box. The one on the right is a long box. That gets fitted to your foot depending on how your feet are formed. If you have longer toes like my daughter, you get the longer box. Okay, let's now move on to the supplies you will need today to sew on these ribbons and elastics. Obviously you need your pointe shoes, and with the pointe shoes you should have been given a long singular ribbon and one long piece of elastic. You'll need a pencil for marking, a lighter for the ends of the ribbon. I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. A stitch kit that you can usually buy wherever you are getting fitted for your pointe shoes, and most of them do come with thread that's going to match your pointe shoe pretty closely. This one comes with a seam ripper, 2 needles, fingernail clippers, and a pair of scissors that are foldable so that they can fit back in the box. Something else that I want to point out is that when you get this thread in your stitch kit, it's normally pretty thick by itself, and there are different methods that people like to use when sewing with a thicker thread. Some like to do like I did yesterday, where you just have you thread your needle and you have a short side, long side, and you put your knot at the bottom. However, if you have a thinner piece of thread, I would highly suggest that whenever you thread your needle that you make then your thread the same length, and then tie your knot at the end of that, so that you have basically a double thread, making it thick, going through each stitch. If you are using the method where you need to have both lengths the same when you're tying your knot at the end, it is best to understand that you're going to have to sew this very slowly, because when you have 2 strands like this, they tend to wrap up, knot up, cause bubbles, and so you don't want that. You want to be able to pull it nice and slow and tight, adjusting with the other hand as you're going if you see that stuff starting to wrap up. In my last video, I sewed the ribbons on first, which technically it would be easiest to do the elastics first so that those ribbons are out of your way, but over the years and the many shoes that I've had to put together myself, I've just gotten used to doing whatever is in my hand first. So we're going to start with elastics first today. This is a thicker elastic than what I got with my daughter's shoe, because hers is going across her top of her foot. It's a little bit skinnier. Before we start sewing the elastic in, when you're looking at the back of your shoe, it has a seam that runs all the way down the heel. And since this is a thicker piece of elastic, we do not need to go straight up and down like we did with the skinny one, or go as far down on the shoe. On these thicker ones, I do not like to go straight up and down because of comfort. So if you have a thicker piece, you can go further up on the back of the shoe. And I like to sew it at a little bit of an angle here, so that whenever you are wrapping it around, it does a natural curvature to your top of your foot. When stitching the elastic at an angle, you aren't necessarily making a rectangle or a square. It's going to kind of look like a triangle in a way by the time you get back up to the front where you started. The stitching does not have to be perfect by any means. You cannot see these stitches from the stage, even close up most times, because they're on your foot. So do not worry about all of that. It will be okay, however it turns out. As you can see, mine is not perfect. Now, when you're coming in for your final knot, you want to be on the inside of the shoe. Some people like to go through the very first stitch you see there, pulling that needle all the way through and around that, and then back through the final stitch that you made up here before tying their knot. You don't have to do that. You can just stop right here and make your knot, which is what I'm going to do. Putting my thumb right here and slowly pulling that so that that knot stays close to that elastic without being all the way up here, making it difficult. Snipping off the excess string from the first one as well, making sure you don't get that knot. There's one side. Now you're going to make sure that that is nice and straight as you pull around. You don't want it to be twisted. This is where you need to try on your shoe, wrapping this around the ankle and measuring how much you need to snip off of the extra elastic. Since my person is not here for me to measure, my foot and ankle is about the same size as her, so I'm going to wrap it around mine and use that as a basis. If that does not work and she needs to send it back to me, we're going to make sure that we measure her ankle exact. When measuring the elastic around the ankle, this is a good time to use that pencil to make your mark. This is around my ankle. I'm going to leave the excess this time so that if this is not the right size for the little lady I'm doing this for, we can come back, seam rip, and we have more to give. But if you have exact, you are most definitely allowed to go ahead and snip off whatever excess that you're going to have, making sure you have at least 1/2 inch to sew into the top of that shoe. Okay, again, we want to make sure that it is close to this middle seam that runs down the center of the shoe. I am going to keep this excess just for today for this project, making sure that it's kind of slanted like this one so that it does a natural curve around your ankle when you put it on, and begin stitching again starting on the inside. And there you have it. Nice little ankle wrap right there. Now, remembering whenever you're measuring this around your ankle that you don't want it to be so tight that it starts cutting off your circulation, but also not too loose that whenever you go up into demi that it falls off your heel. For the ribbons, this one came with 2 long pieces of ribbon, and so what we're going to do is we're going to make them equal lengths and fold them exactly in half. Where this little pull is where we're going to slide our scissors in straight as we can. Go ahead and clip that. Then we're going to take our lighter, if you choose this method, and we're going to go ahead and melt the ends of all of the ribbons on both sides so that they do not fray. Again, as stated in the last video, you can also choose to fold each end in half that's going to not be on the inside of the shoe, what's hanging out of the shoe. Clip off the corner, and when you open it, you will have a V, and it will not be able to fray much past that lower point of the V. But not all dance teachers like the way that looks, and they want a straight edge for when you're tying your knot. So I like to still use the lighter method. Just another quick reminder, whenever you're starting to sew in your ribbons, you want them to kind of be at the very start of your arch. For most people, whenever you pull the shoe like this, it does a natural little bend here. And this is again where you can use your pencil to mark where that is. And sliding your ribbon in at an angle, because we don't want it to go straight in the shoe like this, because you see how that will wrinkle. It'll do the same whenever you're wrapping it around your foot. So you want it to kind of naturally go in that arch. That mark you made will be the edge of the inside of the ribbon. The ribbons usually have a matte and a shiny side. You want the shiny side to be on the outside against the shoe as you're sewing it in. This is a thinner piece of material, so when I'm sewing this in, I am going to give it a little bit more inside the shoe, closer to the bottom of the shoe or halfway, making a longer box. Again, if you don't feel like that's supportive enough, you can go in and sew an X in the middle, do an extra stitch at the top in a rectangle, however you think it would benefit you the most. For the thread that I'm using for this one, I'm going to go ahead and only do one strand that's long and one that's short, with a knot at the end of my long string. And again, we're going to start right here in this natural crease that's given by the other stitch of the shoe being folded down, and begin our stitch on the inside of the shoe. Again, you can choose not to do a longer piece on the inside of the shoe and just do a smaller rectangular box here at the edge, but please make sure that is very, very firm, because these are going to get pulled on a lot and you don't want them to rip out, not have enough material there to support. So that's again why I like to come all the way down here and make a big box here, and then come through and do a final stitch across the bottom here with the rectangle inside as well. As I'm finishing up the final stitches of this ribbon, I do want to reiterate that there is not many ways that you can really mess this up or do wrong. There's no specific way that you have to do this. This is all just a matter of opinion and what works best for you. Also, when you're sewing, make sure that you're minding where your ribbon is, so that you're not accidentally sewing through this and making it attached by accident. I did do that once long ago and had to redo the whole thing. It was very frustrating, so just be very aware of where the placement of that ribbon is as you're sewing. And there it is. It's not the most beautiful stitching you've ever seen, but it is in there and it's flat. You don't want any kind of wrinkling in the middle or pulling somewhere on the edges, so make sure you try to get that as flat and up against that material as you can when you're sewing it. Another little method I like to use when I'm doing my final knot, if I have a lot of string left for my other ribbon, I will go ahead and leave it threaded, use that needle to pull through my string, putting my thumb right there, pulling slowly to tie that knot really close, and then I will go ahead and make another knot a little bit further up the string, enough space away that I can clip the excess, so that my other string is already started. I no longer need to tie a knot when I begin this one. I just clip it and start from there. When you're finished, for the first time especially, go ahead and pull that elastic in the middle that pulls that heel down. You can fold in each side like this. Your ribbons can come together like this, and you just wrap it around. Not too firmly, you don't want to pull, stretching things. And then tuck that last little bit in the front. This helps hold them together, keeps a nice shape for storage. But make sure that you're not doing this after practice when you've been sweating in your shoes, because you do need to air them out, as they will start to break down and wear out faster if you do not let that moisture come out. Make sure you're putting it in a safe place where dogs and cats can't get a hold of it. Cats love to try to get in the shoe. They love the glue in the shoe. Dogs love to chew on the boxes, just to get a longer lasting wear out of your shoes. Just a few takeaways from this video. I want you to know that your stitching does not need to look or be perfect in any means. Like I said, you can't see it from the stage. Somebody has to be very close to inspect. Whenever you're doing your ribbons and you do that slight slant, sometimes that doesn't work for everybody's foot. So straight up and down may work best for you. It is a trial and error, especially with your first couple sets of shoes, finding out what works best for you and the shape of your foot. You can always come back, take it apart, and re-sew however it is that you need to adjust it. So for your first time, I would suggest keeping the excess elastic at the bottom, and even possibly put your ribbon down a little bit further so that you have extra to work with. If what you did does not feel right, fit right, look right, you could always come back and try again. I hope this is helpful to you all. Please let me know if there's anything else that you would like for me to add in my last session.